right, testing. Okay. All right. This program is created by someone who has been volunteering for over 20 years, helping people of different kinds, helping them achieve their message they want to get out to the world. But this program is about my father, who, uh, who based on what I've pieced together on his life, he was born in a country during what I believe is World War II. In World War II, he had a miserable childhood and upbringing, like the poverty. I can't even imagine how miserable it was, and miserable is too small a word for it. He suffered so much more than I could ever imagine. But I discovered that he had a toe. One of his toes was split in two, and that's when my mother said that she knew him better than I did. Anyone does, and that explains why she supported him so much, despite how bad he was to her in the remaining 2 decades he was with us. He had shoes so bad that it messed up his feet, and he could still walk, but I never knew until the last that he went from his country to another country. My mother, somehow they got married. They went back to his country, then through a job or something, he went to his something motivated him to come to the United States, and so he traveled so far on a car. He even taught one of his brothers how to drive when I think when his brother was 8 years old, or when he was 8 years old, I don't know. But he had such an adventure that's so underrated. Like a lot of parents, there's unsung heroes out there. All good parents are heroes in a sense. But I never understood that until afterwards. We moved. I was born in one town. This was after my first sister, who was not related to him. She was mistreated by him, so he had his flaws. He had his mild areas of racism and what you would call it, nepotism, but she still grew up, and he still helped her get into college. The only child that made it to college thanks to his help, and also another sister. But when in my childhood, what really separated me from him was the physical abuse. And there was times when I did deserve to be physically abused and taught discipline, but other times I didn't deserve it. But I didn't see that he was suffering, and he had his scars, like during his job, and the discrimination he might have faced, and having to earn respect through his deeds and his talents and his intelligence. He was an engineer, and there's no proof, but from hearsay of the family and stuff, and what he may have said, he may have been one of the people that was responsible for the invention of the transistor. There's no proof of that, but we won't know. Only he knows, and whoever was there. But even if that wasn't the case, he sacrificed so much for our family, and I didn't see that. I only felt the pain. The pain. But he did it because that was how he was raised. I think maybe that was a way to beat the devil out of people, but that sort of treatment can also bring in bad thoughts towards a child and their parent. Our family had its ups and downs, but through grade school, even in the bullying, which was the bullying in school, which was absolutely nothing compared to what I felt towards him because of how he made me feel at home. Any bullying was absolutely nothing. It's just a slap in the wrist compared to what he did to me. What I felt, at least. And I did not understand why. So... and so, through grade school, I had a classmate. He had his family problems. He ran away from school. He said that. And that gave me ideas. I traveled to my father's country once, and it was all right. I was uncomfortable there because it's a harder country. It's not like the United States where there's more possibilities, but there's people there that were living there, and so one of my sisters gave me an idea of fearing that country and disliking that country, and yeah, I prefer living in the United States, but it got to the point I was so fearful that if I went there again, I wouldn't come back. So I ran away. And it was at the point where he had to go take the plane because, he wanted to see his mother and his father. And I met both of them. But I was too scared. And I hated him. So I ran away. I took a train. I went to another state. But then I thought of my mother, and I knew we would destroy her if I stayed overnight at an inn. So I went back the same day, and she cried so much. And I stayed with her. And then when he came back from the country, maybe he changed. I don't know. I don't know the details, but maybe that experience, it was quiet about it. He didn't really talk about it, but I think it really hurt him inside. And so maybe things changed from then. From, I think, last days of grade school to high school. But, there was still that strictness and that harshness. And I did what he told me to do. I went where he wanted me to go. And he did save my life from dogs that attacked us. He put me on the fence so they wouldn't reach me. They bit his leg, I think, but they stopped somehow. So he was able to walk and stuff. He didn't need a cane until his older years. He lived until his 80s, which so many people don't get an opportunity to do, to really think. And during the high school years or the later years, something happened. Like he possesses things because he grew up with nothing. He was so miserable, and so he got the habit of picking up things and collecting them. And he filled our house. Well, yeah, the second house we moved to, that was our main house. It was two-floor house, attic, basement, backyard, driveway. The driveway, he had 3 cars. They were filled with a lot of things. We called them junk, but they were his property. They were his wealth that he wanted to pass down to the family and do whatever they wanted to do. But it was so hard. He couldn't explain it. And my mother didn't see that. And so she tricked. And one time he got into an accident. And she tricked him to see doctor. Oh, no, wait. What happened was she tricked him into selling the house. And then so much was dumped, it devastated him. And so we moved to an apartment. And then that apartment, he began his routine of clutter and more clutter, whatever free space there was. He would take advantage of it, and my mother didn't like that. And he felt bitterness towards her because of what he lost in the other house, and so he when he got in an accident, he told a lie to the nurses that mother wasn't treating him right, and so there was this whole government investigation, and then mother and my oldest sister, who was mistreated by him because she was now his own blood, and she was angry at him to the point where she driven her nails into my second oldest sister's face because out of jealousy, because his firstborn, his daughter, he treated her better than my oldest daughter. So he disciplined her, and eventually as she grew up, being a girl, he stopped being harsh towards her, but harshness towards me was just, it went from physical to only verbal, because as I grew up, his principles taught him to not be as physical and just be verbal and stuff. So that pressure just drew a wedge between me and him. And when my mother and my oldest sister brought him to see the doctors, he was terrified. He was suffering from dementia, and he thought they were trying to send him to an old folks home, which is a hell to many people. And so he hated them for that. And he was calm, and he passed the test the doctors did, and he was proud of that. And ever since then, he was so bitter to Mom and my oldest sisters. He did not forget. He did not forgive them. And then when the clutter got to the point, and we had to move out of the house to another place, the pattern of clutter continued. And I don't blame him for that. There was still space to move and stuff, but my mom didn't like that, and it was back and forth for years, for 2 decades at least. And that bitterness just kept rolling, and I was separated from him, and I didn't like him. I had to share the room for him for maybe a few years, and then eventually I decided I couldn't stand his snoring, and I decided to be on the living room couch from then on. And my mother had pity and sadness, so what she did was she gave me her room, and she slept in a room that used to be my sister's until my youngest sister moved out. And so my mother sleeps in a different room. I sleep in her room, her former room, and he slept in his own room alone. And the family had its ups and downs. It wasn't always all bad, but there was still this negativity in the air. We just couldn't make peace, and it was always like that. And over the years, I just couldn't understand that. I just couldn't. To me, he was like a villain, and I thought that he couldn't understand. I didn't see the good side of him. I only saw the bad side, and that's all I saw. I thought my mother was good and my father was bad, but the reality was they were both good, and he didn't. He was suffering. He was totally devastated. He lost so many things and so many cars, and from the first main house we had, then in the second house he lost more things, and then in this, but the main house was devastated because he paid for everything. He was the only one working, and eventually she was working, but he carried the family for him, and until she started paying the bills and he got his pension. And then he didn't want to contribute to the rent and bills. He was that bitter towards her. So there was this internal conflict of the family. And then the family was taking sides. His sister was taking side with him. And his first daughter took sides with him. Because I'm sure especially she talked to him more so as possible that he told her his life story. And so she empathized with her. She saw more about him than I did, and so eventually my sister just separated from us, and she had her problems too, because she was antagonizing Mom and then believing his story that she was not treating him right, and then so she was misguided too, and then I started believing that she was crazy, that she was wrong to side with him and not with Mother. But everyone was innocent, everyone was misguided, and everyone was painting each other an enemy when we could have been friends. I was friends with Mother, but I couldn't be friends with him. And I was distanced from my sister, and she stopped talking to me. And then it got to the point where, after the pandemic, I don't know what happened. He is so intelligent. He knows things about medicine and teas and taking care of himself, but he had his flaws. He overlooked things, and even people like us that try to be careful and watch what we eat the wrong things. And somehow he got cancer. He had cancer in the neck, the jaw, somewhere, maybe in the colon. but it got worse and worse. And I didn't understand. I didn't feel that because I still had bitterness toward him, the pain of the childhood. I didn't see the discipline in him. I didn't see what he was trying to do was set me right. Because if I wasn't disciplined, how would I think? Would I be spoiled? Would I be arrogant and unfeeling? Because it was that discipline that taught me empathy. Empathy and consideration of the feeling of others. Empathy and considering the feeling of others. But I had so much hate inside me. And so I distanced myself from others. I lost my best friend. I was mean to him. We were good at first, but with the discipline that my father did to me, I couldn't. I took it out on others. Not to extremes, but it was just toxic. And so my best friend, he moved away eventually. And then his brother, the last time I hear my brother, my friend, he told my brother that his brother failed to get something from me, that my friend would kill his brother. But I gave his brother, a game, just so a game that we played together. And so he took it to his friend, and that was the last I heard of him from them. And they were Asian. Asians get so much hatred, and I don't know if they survived all the attacks towards Asians and the scapegoating. So I think about him, and I think about my other friend, who was a neighbor. I don't know how he's doing. But I wasn't there for him. I was just so occupied with my own feelings and my own bitterness towards my father and eagerness to try to protect my mother from my father, using mean words. And he tried to say things, but I told him to shut up, and I told him to die. And even if I spoke the way he wanted me to speak, he was still talking. I didn't want to hear him. And he had advice, and he always, over the years, he always offered to help me get to college, help me any way he could. But I didn't see that. I didn't want because I thought if I let the enemy help me, then I would have no integrity. That I only saw a villain in him, and I was so stupid. I was so ignorant and immature. I thought I knew everything. I thought I had him all figured out. I thought I had him all figured out, but I didn't. I didn't know him completely, and that's why I gave him a cold shoulder. He was only met with silence. He was alone. His friends were just dying one after another. His favorite sister, his family. He had no one, and he only had his wife with. He couldn't forgive. He had me, who showed no love. And my younger sister, she learned to forgive him and be nice to him. And so he warmed up to that. And somehow they got along. He was somehow harsh, and she cried. But everyone was suffering. Everyone just didn't let go and just see the good in everyone. And he couldn't figure my mom. And mom was so misunderstood, just like I misunderstood him. I could have saved him. I could have saved him from that cesspool, that abyss of hatred he had towards mother. I could have got myself out of the bitterness. But it was too late. 10 hours after he passed away, it was too late. Even after he was suffering, a firefighter had to come in and pick him up, and I had to help him with his legs. But I felt nothing. I just did it because of pressure. If I didn't help, I would look bad. So I helped the firefighter get him back onto the couch. He didn't want to get the bed that the nurses brought in because he didn't try to talk to the nurse. He got hospice care at home, and my mom wanted that because he wanted that. And so he was with us. Basically, he lived with me all my life. And I just thought of the negative side of things. I didn't learn from the discipline. I didn't learn from what he intended to do. I didn't intend that he wanted to help me. And I tried to. I was distracted too. The internet, YouTube, video games. I just saw things black and white. There's good and there's evil. I didn't see that in between. I didn't see that evil people can become good. And it hurt that people are suffering, and what they do is they believe it's justified, and the justification justifies the means. He had his flaws, but he could have been shown the way. He could have been learned to forgive if I forgiven him. If I forgive him and I told him how I felt, he would have understood how it made me feel. But I never told him about it. I just took it all in. And so I was cold. And throughout the years, even the girls that tried to make a relationship with me, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to have kids. I didn't want to have kids because I didn't want them to suffer like I did. But that was in a way, I realized how, and my father, he suffered so much during his final weeks, his final days. The cancer got so bad that he had trouble eating and drinking. He couldn't eat anymore, and then he couldn't drink anymore, and then he couldn't breathe anymore. And those final days, he was still calling out to his mother as much as he could. His mother over and over, and I didn't feel it. All I saw was a villain, and I was so stupid. But he was really a good guy, a tragic hero, a tragic parent. A parent that protected his family, a parent that sacrificed everything to support his family above all, his children. Even though he didn't forgive his mother, he still loved his children. And I did not see that. I didn't see that he loved his children. Between him and me, he didn't have hatred toward me. He wanted, but he couldn't. It was just a combination of, that madness, that machismo, that thinking of being strong, and that distance. And he didn't want to hurt me, so he kept his distance. Maybe that's why. And I couldn't understand it. And he kept calling out his mother. He kept calling out his mother. His mother. He better reunite with her. He better. There has to be an afterlife. There has to. Because otherwise, what's the point? What's the point of life? What's the point of life? What life brings existence. Think about all the ones that the non-exist that didn't become exist. Are we only able to exist if we are born? If we are conceived? How can we learn if we don't live through life? How can we understand our hardships so we can feel and think of kindness and good thoughts? Because someone without hardships doesn't feel, and if they don't feel pain, then how can they understand the pain of others? Everyone's fighting for their own beliefs and their own bias, and they're tearing at each other. They don't respect each other. They don't understand that everyone is a mind has different components. A mind is pure thoughts, a pure existence. It goes beyond body, it goes beyond sex and race and culture and nationality. But people have been divided by politics, been divided and turned against each other. For what? Both sides have good points, but at the same time, they don't see the other side of things. They only want things their way, but they don't reach a compromise. They want to because they know they can profit from people's wars and indifferences. And there's that elitism and that nepotism and that purists that just only care about their own kind. And it goes beyond religion. Whether people are religious or not, they can get along. whatever people believe in, it's better to believe in an afterlife than in nothing. Because how sad it is to go out and believe that life is all there is. That's why people are desperate. They're so desperate they're willing to kill others, steal from others, try to make the best of her life at the expense of others. But that is so sad. Everyone is innocent. Everyone is born innocent. Everyone is pure. Even those serial killers and those mad people that have developed the mind of taking pleasure in making people miserable and sad. They are sad. They're suffering. They are corrupt. But they still have potential to see the other side. Potential to change. Potential to change. Become someone better. Someone good. Not be superior to each other, but to see everyone is equal. Treat everyone equally. Even those mass murderers, they are victims just as much as the victims of those they killed, because they started good, but they suffered, and then they couldn't take anymore. They took it out on others. They took it out on the animals. My father loved animals, and so I realized he loved animals. He loved life. He said our life is so precious. And he liked things like, Star Trek, because, like things like Star Trek, I thought it was boring. I thought entertainment in life could only be interesting if there was violence, if there was like competition. But that stuff is poison. Stuff has separated people, have created people to draw lines. People siding with a team and going up against another team. That is so sad. That is so selfish. How evil it is to think that one side is good and the other side is evil, when everyone believes they are good. When even the ones that think they are doing things for evil and they take pleasure from it, they think what they're doing is good or right, but they're misguided. They are only thinking about themselves. If they only could build bridges and be kind to each other, they could see that it feels so much better to be good with each other and be worthy of loyalty and respect and trust, instead of being enemies of each other, instead of warring against each other. Greed is so bad. And destruction is bad. And it just poisons everything. Even sports, people celebrate when their side wins, and then they don't think about the other side. I see both sides, especially in sports. I don't take a side of this or that. Even if one side is committing fouls or another, that's that one individual. That's not the whole team. Everyone has their own faults, but both sides see themselves as a good side. So why are we against each other? Why can't we think of things to do that are constructive? My father's an engineer. He builds. He creates. He even chose to create a life instead of taking lives or thinking, oh, the world is so bad that my children don't deserve to live. They shouldn't see all this. But I was like that, and I regret it, because now I'm too old. I'm too old to have children, and I see my flaws. I'm not qualified to raise children. I would be poor, and they would suffer. But at the same time, I don't know. Those that are able to have children out there, they throw away that opportunity. I know rape is bad and stuff, but is it the unborn's fault? Don't you think the unborn has a chance to become someone that's good and make life better for others out there? They have the potential. I'm not saying people should be pro-birth and stuff like that, but we're all here because of our parents. Our parents allowed us to live, allowed us the chance to experience positive. Experience to learn things, experience to learn, to become good people, to become a soul, and there has to be a next life, because all these learnings and experiences, they can become something in the afterlife that can make us better, create a happy world for everyone, and not have the flaws of these and not have the flaws of these physical bodies that have so much suffering and stuff. But we already been through that. We can rise out of this training ground of suffering to learn to become better minds, better existences. And yeah, we all want to be something. We all want to be something different from we were born. But we have to believe in the afterlife, because even if we don't become what we want to be in this world, even if we want to change our identity into something we prefer to be, we can still develop our mind in preparation for the afterlife and become good, not evil, not constructive and positive, not destructive and ruinous. I don't know, but I have faith I can meet him again. He must have reunited with his parents he loves so much. He loves his mother. He should reunite with his sister. He should reunite with her. I don't know how long it takes for a mind to get out of their body, out of their ashes, and remember and reunite with their loved ones that have passed. They have to reunite, because things have to become good. I look at the universe, and there's so much wasted potential, so much emptiness. The humanity reaches out for the stars, but everyone's at each other's throats. How can people reach out for the stars and be at each other's throats without solving their problems here? How can they populate other planets, and become a better species, a better life, if they don't revolutionize, change their cultures, so that things are not so black and white, so people are not drawing lines and hating each other, because all of that is bad. All of that is just becomes ruin. I know this is going after a half hour, but I would have wanted us to do this for a half hour. I think I could have, but I think the more I talk, the more there could be an understanding that this is one life that now lives with the burden of regret. You all out there, you have parents that may, or guardians that may be misunderstood. Maybe they have the potential to see the light. And the one thing that I should have said to my father before he died, when he could see and when he could hear me, the one thing I should have thanked them. The one thing we should do is for our parents is to thank them for helping us exist, for helping create us, for helping us to be something, to be someone with potential. The potential to be good, to be someone good. Then not only they can be proud of, but we can be proud of. But not proud just for ourselves, but being someone that others can be good and learn from, and become good to others. Because if humanity's like that could be bring out such a much better change than people forcing just their views and making others suffer. Because you can't make everyone, even if you exterminate other ideals, people of other ideals, there's gonna be new generations that will think differently and see things their own way, and people have to come to an understanding so that there can be a compromise, so people can coexist. Because how could humanity go on existing if people couldn't understand each other and come to a compromise? There would have been so much conflict that everything would have been erased already. But people, selfishness and greed, they're now a machine. They're just motivated for profit at the expense of everything else. Profit for survival, and feeding a machine that feeds on wars and internal conflicts that result in ruin and destruction and separation of the people and even the politicians and those that benefit from the poor and those clashing between each other. They may be laughing, but they themselves are a joke. They themselves are a tragedy, a sad, twisted, corrupt tragedy that continue to fail themselves to see the light. To see the light and darkness. But good light and dark at the same time are not good and evil, because that can also create ideas of racism and this side versus that side. Both light and dark are both good. And both can have potential of evil as well. That's why people have to set aside their differences. The light and the dark can respect each other and respect themselves, but not respect even those that don't respect you. You continue respecting them, and that gives them a chance to perhaps respect you one day, to maybe realize that they were wrong to disrespect you, that they're wrong to be so cruel. They may laugh, but they are just sad, and they continue to punish themselves and lock themselves up in the abyss of ruin and corruption. And who wants to be corrupt? Who wants to be the bad person? Because that is emptiness. That will never give you happiness. That will never make you complete. Because while people are afraid to trust others, because they know if they trust the wrong person, it would bring them down to their ruin. People fear death, but everyone dies eventually. So what does that mean? So people are willing to sacrifice others for their limited time, for their spark of glory, their so-called glory. But that is pathetic, because they are short-sighted. Look at things from the eyes of eternity. The eyes of eternity. The perspective, the eyes of eternity. You can begin to see the bigger picture, the larger picture. Because through the eyes of eternity, you can see the bigger playing field and see beyond the universe, and see beyond life and death. See beyond life and death, because we are ignorant. We don't know what is. How can we know what is life when we have yet to die? So how can people dismiss what our religion says if we have yet to see everything? We don't know the past or the future. I believe that time is the ever-changing present. People confuse memories with the past. People think of like maybe time travel, but maybe that's true, but maybe it's not. That's not true, because we live in the present and things change at this moment. What exists in the past is in records, what people write and draw and think about and memorize and remember. But the future is what the present becomes. So I'm telling you, it's harmful. I mean, it's hurtful. Yeah, even bullies, they are suffering too. They're misguided. They don't have the right influences, because look at all the television stuff. It glorifies violence and selfishness, life versus life, greed, destruction, competition, thinking those things are normal and natural when they're poison. That is misguided and one-sided things to do things, but that's why people get so easy. It's like a drug. People think they can easily get from a thrill from seeing explosion and seeing some seemingly good person take out a seemingly bad person. That's why some people maybe empathize with tragic villains and stuff like that, but heroes are over-glorified and villains are misunderstood, and villains are stereotyped because all those storytellers and stuff, many of them are sadists and masochists and misogynists and misandrists. They just draw lines and just do what's the easiest to get attention. That's why news they talk about the killings, and yeah, that stuff is real. It's good to be aware of that thing, but at the same time, it conditions people to think that's the norm, and people think it's not. Oh, that's this person behaved this way because they trashed the restaurant and stuff. But people don't see things from the other side. Yeah, they may be spoiled and stuff, but many of them may feel they are wronged and disrespected. and you know, they too are a victim. So there are victims on both sides. People have to understand that victims are on both sides. But people just can't comprehend that. People are just focused on good and bad, right and wrong, this side versus this side. Only one side can be justified, like that court hearing. So this guy was the victim and his wife was the bad person, or this wife was the victim and this guy was a bad person. Yeah, abuse happens and there are a lot of corrupt people, but I don't believe. It's just so wrong because this is so twisted. Because of course, people that have done wrongs are too dangerous to be let loose. But at the same time, prisons are an industry. They're making money off of prisons. Prisons want more prisoners. Prisons want those that profit from prisons want people to commit prisons, so they go to prison, and that is just so sad. So it's bad to want people to go to prison, and I know it's also hard. It's bad to want people to die, but that's the situation we are in. People are suffering, people are being corrupt, but I believe, yeah, maybe prisons could turn over and leave, but at the same time, people are suffering in prison, and also people are exploiting people that are in prison and profiting from them and building more prisons. It's just so sad and so wrong. People say to vote and stuff, but the thing is, the leaders, they're all liars on both sides. They're deceivers. The world has been ruled by liars and hypocrites and cowards, and they're fearful for their own life because they, one way or another, they're going to get assassinated. If someone tries to die good, they get killed. But so they sooner try to just think about themselves, just stay in their own lane, and that's just so sad. But what can anyone do? It's because all these radical groups that just blindly and ignorantly and just tragically just let themselves be absorbed into these organizations of hatred and thinking like maybe a reset would fix things. History would just repeat itself. That's not really a solution. Maybe they have the ways, but the problem is they also have their culture. They are slaves of their culture, and they're only single-mindedness, their narrow-mindedness. So everyone in the world doesn't have all the right answers. And so no one group has all the right answers. So this is the situation we are in. It seems like only like divine intervention can help everyone. So everyone can be what they want to be without harming others. Everyone can be happy without taking the happiness away from others. And everyone can be eternally just in bliss, living in ways that we can't imagine, in constructive, positive, and yeah, because this is coming from me. This is coming from me who, all these years since childhood, I played and seen things of countless violence and destruction. I thought that was entertainment. I thought I seen movies and stuff, good and bad and stuff, and if we were to go with video game numbers, I've killed so many virtual characters and virtual players that no one can really count. And it's nothing to brag about. It's just so sad. This is the situation we are in. This is how poisoned humanity is. All the brutalities, the animals. Yeah, I eat meat and stuff, but I just do it so that meat doesn't go to waste. They already killed, and if I didn't buy meat, they would still kill animals anyway. So it's a situation. Yeah, I shouldn't eat meat and stuff like that. But people just do what they believe is right, and yeah, it's just everything's so sick. So people don't need to be religious. In part of what I believe in, I keep an open mind. It's important to keep an open mind. Don't assume, oh, this is not true or this is true. We don't know all the answers. We are ignorant. Priests to atheists, they don't know everything. And so only through death, I believe, we'll eventually know the truth, because everyone will die eventually. And it's not something to be afraid of. It's something we just have to accept and hope for the afterlife and hope for a paradise that is ideal for each of us. Because, of course, one paradise to one is a hell to another. Remember that. You cannot make everyone happy with your ideals and with your way of thinking. There is no way. And even if you build a family and families that believe your way, their children will eventually think other ways, of better ways, creative ways, ways that are true to themselves. And you can't take away from that. You can harm them, you can kill them, but there will others that will think their own way. So people have to come to a compromise and respect each other. Try to understand each other. Stay out each other's way. There's no embarrassment in giving way to someone else, and don't be in such a rush. Like a lot of people are just so selfish and putting danger to others. Don't realize that your existence is so precious. You exist. It's better than not existing. How sad it is to not exist. I mean, look at the animals. They're so ignorant. They're so sad. I believe that it's better to be human than an animal or a lesser creature. I believe lesser creatures and animals should become human, because at least humans have the potential to have greater thoughts, have the potential to think better, and really, really realize what pure love is, what true respect is, what life is. Because animals, they usually go by instinct. Yeah, they could feel happiness and sadness, but their mentalities are sadly basic. They have a very small capacity compared to what humans can think and feel and what humans can imagine. So just think about that. We can imagine things that people commonly believe is not possible, but the impossible can be possible. So just think about that. We don't know things. So like generations ago, people didn't believe things that could happen that are happening, and we are still in an infancy. It's really interesting how death is like life and death are the biggest mysteries of humanity, of life, of people here that have yet to experience death to really see the full picture. And we are in a circle of assumptions and guessing, and people that believe that they cannot be wrong, because otherwise, if they even question themselves, they fear that they will be lost, and then they wouldn't be able to assert their authority upon their family and their kids or towards their parents, because they're those that think that they're know-it-alls, and they're wrong because they don't know any better. Maybe they do know some things better than others. Maybe they understand empathy and respect and pure love and altruism and benevolence better than others, but everyone has their flaws and their social limitations and stuff. So it's really something to think about, because maybe to the average person, maybe I'm a nobody, but at the same time, I'm a somebody. And I don't know if I should tell the name of my father here, but because, names are illusions. Names don't really define who we are. Names, we could give ourselves countless names. I gave myself many names, actually. I even invent names for myself once in a while, because, names are kind of like clothes. It's up to the person how many names they keep, what they change. It's up to the individual. So yeah, I think I won't say his name, because otherwise people that are less inclined to be open-minded will start thinking, oh, they're this type of person, they're from this type of thing. So there's some people that will only open up to people that think that they are of their own kind. So they will only acknowledge the words from their own kind. Whether, like, say, for example, males will only acknowledge the word from a male. They won't take a female seriously, and vice versa. Or someone of a certain race or ethnicity or nationality will only believe those of the same nationality and their same religion and beliefs. So that's just closed-mindedness, because what I'm saying is the truth. It's reality. This is an example of someone who really has an epiphany, like a realization, like an awakening that and I'm so glad I lived long enough to understand that. I couldn't say thank you to my father, but if you're listening now, I thank you, Father. Thank you for supporting the family, for helping all of us, for trying to be good, trying to believe what you were trying to believe was right. Because there's so many out there that can change, that can realize their wrongs, that can learn to forgive and realize their mistakes. Because if people forgive them, then they could learn to forgive others. Thank you, Father. Thank you. It's too bad that you took your death for me to realize this. You suffer so much. But the positive thing, there's so many that are suffering even more times. There are children that don't even get to live long enough. Those that don't even get to be born because their parents don't allow them to. They don't get the chance. But you, Father, you had the chance. Your parents loved you. You had so much fortune and luck to live up to your 80s. And even though you couldn't get the love from me, at least my sisters, they were all there for you. They all showed up there. And I heard from across the room that you're happy, that you're smiling. At least they give you comfort during your final days. At least they gave you comfort. And even though you didn't forgive Mother, even after new life, you came to a realization. And maybe now you forgive her. Maybe now you realize you were wrong about that. Just like I was wrong about you. I was wrong about you. It is crazy because all my life I thought I would never cry for you. I thought I would feel nothing, and I did feel nothing until after you died. It's crazy. It's so crazy. When my friends told me how their father died, I didn't feel nothing because I couldn't understand. I had a childhood where I mistaken my father for a bad guy, and I didn't see a good son. I didn't understand this discipline. I was so bad. But at least now, with these tears and stuff, at least in a positive side, that does realize to me that I'm not bad, I'm not evil, and I'm thankful for that. So that means I'm not lost. I'm not a lost cause. I still have hope. I still have positivity. So I thank you for that. You succeeded. You succeeded to release the family. Everyone in our family is good. Maybe my sister, my second oldest sister, we haven't come to terms fully, and I haven't told these words to her. But maybe she'll hear these words eventually. Maybe we'll be good to each other, and finally the bridges will be restored in the family. Maybe finally the bridges will be restored in the family. And all of you out there, you have a chance. You may be suffering too, and me just talking, just drawing on paper and just coming to the topics, drawing on paper and understanding each person right, what you think about each other, what you hid from each other, and come to your understanding and explain why you thought that way, why you felt that way, and what you think about life, and understanding what your definition of respect and empathy in pure life. But don't speak to me like from an antagonist side of things. Speak from like a neutral or an open-minded side of things. Because otherwise, if you have this bad attitude and negative attitude, it just poisons the air. How can you open up and repair bridges if you still have that grudge, that just one-sided, oh, I'm good and they're bad? Because how can you learn from your wrongs and even realize from your own wrongs and your misunderstandings if you don't open up to each other? Just get your attitude, get your ego out of there. Just be open-minded and clear. And because we all want to feel good, right? How can you feel good? How can you feel bad, happy, if you have negativity within you? See, the enemy is from within. The enemy is from within. You gotta identify the enemy within you. You're not pure. Maybe you are, but you have to understand that it's possible that you could be wrong about some things about them. And this goes beyond family, neighbors, friends, different races, different understandings. Because, like, for example, there were some people that they lashed out at people because over, like, say, like a $2 extra salsa. All right. So they were wrong to trash the place. But the other people, maybe if someone had benevolence to offer to pay for that salsa, those people, those selfish people, maybe learn to realize that there are good people, and maybe they'll learn to start respecting and calm down and try to be better people. Maybe they won't understand now, but at least it wouldn't have escalated into injuries and possibly death. And people, those out there that are suffering and desperate, try not to take it out on others. Don't damn yourself. Don't risk damning yourself, your future. Because what do you do when you harm or kill someone? You end up in jail, killed by cops, killed by someone else, or you'll have to go in hiding in fear for the rest of your life. And then if you have that attitude, oh, you got away with it this time, your pride may get you to try something like that later on until you're eventually caught or you're killed. And if you're never caught throughout your own life, what about the afterlife? Will you gamble your existence? Will you gamble your future on just a moment of superiority? Like, really? Like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Isn't it better? Isn't it a better victory to have friends instead of enemies? Even if those you can't never be enemies with, at least try to distance yourself from them. There's some that you just won't understand, but there's still potential out there. There's still potential for families and people to stop being enemies and even possibly become kind-hearted friends, or at least respectful friends, and understand both sides. Because this is what even churchgoers are not, and priests are not talking about. Many of them only care about, many are just one-track mind. They just follow a book. They're not following their own feelings. They're not really thinking outside the box like I believe I am. Because these words, I haven't seen these words said anywhere on YouTube, on anywhere else. People are glorifying and making money off of whatever they can, whatever is cool and popular. But that many of that stuff is toxic and just does not help. And especially even those, even like, say, songs of love and stuff, that creates jealousy, selfishness, and greed, and people shouldn't lash out on each other over, like, oh, someone's cheating on stuff. People should just part ways, at least from a peaceful stance. Don't ruin each other's lives. Don't poison the air. Don't make things worse for each other, and just make peace. Peace is overrated. Yeah, peace is boring, but peace is a key to and a gateway to a better mind, a better mindset. And only then can you really begin to understand existence, life, and not take things for granted. I took things for granted. But I had to say this, because now, over 20 years helping people with TV shows, I have a voice. I have an opportunity to let people know out there that maybe these words will help save someone, help educate them to really become better people, and also help others become better people. So that's it. All right, see ya. Take care. Be better and save everyone.